Hi, I'm Brant Menswar, and welcome to my show, Just a Moment. As a former world touring musician turned keynote speaker and author, I've experienced my share of life-altering moments that have both broken me and propelled me forward. How you leverage those moments or push through them will define your destiny. Each week on my show, I'll provide tools on how to maximize those moments, as well as interview some of the most successful entrepreneurs, entertainers, and athletes on how the power of a single moment changed their life. Join me to learn how to change what's possible for your life. It'll take just a moment. Hi, friends. Today, our guest is Sara Mitich. She is an award-winning film and TV actress. You might know her from her roles in Star Trek Discovery, The Expanse, Murdoch Mysteries, or maybe the psychological thriller Control. You know, many refer to Sara as a chameleon, as her remarkably wide range as an actor allows her to effortlessly slip into any role. Sara is also the host of the Gratitude and Growth podcast, where she blends her desire of studying human behavior and being of service to others. Sara, the stage is yours.
Hi, I'm Sara Mitich, and this is my moment. I grew up in this city called Hamilton, outside of Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. And I'm first generation Canadian. So I was born there, but my family came from Serbia. My parents worked several jobs, multiple jobs. My dad was an electrical engineer, a senior design engineer. But he was also doing, I remember him doing the newspaper route on a bicycle. You know what I mean? I think he was also a taxi driver at some point. My mom, who's my role model, was training to be a judge. She was a lawyer back home. They didn't accept her degrees. So she started from the bottom. She worked at a sausage stand in the mall and then worked her way up. And now she works at City Hall and has an amazing government job. So I grew up in this household that everyone was working a lot. They were always very supportive of everything and anything we wanted to do. As a kid, I was always so imaginative. I was obsessed with Sailor Moon. And so for so long, I had my own little troupe, and I was like Sailor Wind, and I was convinced the wind could talk to me. I was always a weird kid. My imagination would just come up with all these different things, but wildly disciplined too. So at the age of 3, I knew I wanted to be a prima ballerina. Prima ballerina is the celebrity of ballerinas. It is the lead ingenue, the lead dancer, the lead of the show, the lead of the company most times. So it's just like the highest female status you can get. That's all you hope to be. It's like the Meryl Streep status level of the ballet world. And so I was like, let's go. Let's do this.
Sara's dedication and discipline paid off, as she was offered a scholarship to study at Canada's prestigious National School of Ballet.
And then at 9 years old, I moved to the National Ballet School of Canada. The first year was really hard. The first month I was there, my parents got divorced. And I got so homesick. I was so homesick that first year. And I was like, okay, I know I want to do this. And my family essentially had to give up their parental rights. They couldn't even come visit me. They had to sign contracts. They have to ask permission. And so I'm suddenly living in a room with 2 other girls. It's 3 girls to 1 room. We have physical exercises or physical classes, ballet, fitness, all of this, 4 to 6 hours a day, depending on the day. And that homesickness really started to creep in. And I remember so many times I'd call my parents at 11 p.m. sobbing, being like, come get me, I want to go home. And they didn't. And I know that took a lot for them. And it took a lot for me. But after that first year, it started getting better, the homesickness. And just the discipline it taught me, I think I'll forever be grateful for, because it just taught me that if you really want something, you have to go for it. And there is a cost, in a way. There is a cost to sometimes achieving the greatness that you want to achieve.
That cost was the literal physical deterioration of Sara's body, leaving her with an incredibly difficult decision to make.
So what happened was I grew 5 or 6 inches in 8 months, dislocated my knees, busted my back. 2 of my vertebrae shifted 1 or 2 millimeters. So I was like muscularly paralyzed, spent a year in physio, rehabbing every muscle from my toe to my neck, essentially. And then the day they said I could go back to classes, and also side note, I was on almost a full scholarship because I was their promo girl. Like, I was it. It wasn't just me that was like, I'm going to be prima ballerina. Everyone was like, she's going to be prima ballerina. Because the school was quite expensive. And again, immigrant upbringing. It's not like we had, I don't know what the tuition was, but I'm sure it was like $30,000 a year, you know? So that was it. Like, that's all I knew and that's all I wanted. And then I got injured. And the day they said I could go back to classes, I was rushed to the hospital with a very complicated case of appendicitis. And I was out for another month. And I was like, okay. At this point, I think it was like March or April of the school year. And I was having a little sit down with myself at 15, as my life is kind of like going all over and my hormones are doing their thing, being like, I think I need to take a year off. I think my body's saying like, it's not okay right now. And so I left, initially just taking a year off, but I never went back.
Sara transitioned from the extremely structured private school of ballet to a large public school in Hamilton, where she discovered her love for theater. This new passion led her to university, where she pursued a new dream of performing on stage.
My university degree, I did 6 years and 4. So I did a 2-year college diploma, which was the practical aspects of acting, the studio work, the productions. And then at the same time, I did a theoretical degree because I made a pact with my parents that if I was going to be an actor, at least I would get a degree so I could teach if nothing else worked. And I went through like phases in university of second year, I was like, this is too much work. I'm just going to be a model. And I kind of like let all my grades go and everything. And then third year, I realized I'm like, no, this is what I want to do. And so at this point before the moment, it's the last semester of my last year. And I've realized acting is what I want to do. And I'm gearing myself up for a career in theater. That's where I was at. I was like, we have 2 big festivals in Ontario called the Stratford Festival and the Shaw Festival. And I was like, these are where I want to go. This is what I want to do. And I was very immersed in it. And I was getting ready for the real world of what this is all going to be like after I graduate.
Sara's moment arrived without any fanfare. Its subtlety only felt in her fingers while touching her laptop keyboard and reading one particular email.
The moment in itself was isolated. I was sitting at my desk, at my mom's at the kitchen table, and I was going through emails. And I had reached out to a professor about something, my professor for this film course. So in that 4th year, we had a 6-week intro to film and TV. And like I said, I was all about theater. I never really thought about film and TV as a viable career option. But something happened in this course where I fell in love with the intimacy of film and TV. I fell in love with the fact that my partner was an inch away from me and that I didn't have to project to the back wall, that suddenly, like, all this humanness was here in front of me and I could feel their breath and they could feel mine. And the fact that there was a camera 6 inches away from their head recording it all. So there was something about it that just like filled me and I got this new spark of passion. And so I'm sitting at my table, opening my email, and I get this email from that teacher, from that professor. And we were talking about something else, but there was one line at the end of that email. And he said, for some reason, I'm not too sure why, but I want to tell you that I believe in you. And I believe that you can really do this film and TV thing. And it was such a simple thing and just one sentence, with a couple commas. But that moment, I read it and it just hit me. It like washed all over me. You know those moments that just hit you from like the crown of your head to your toes, and you just feel that energy go through, and something inside of me just lit up reading it. I remember my hands on my keys and then just like resting on the side of my laptop, the side of my desk, and just maybe it was a grounding. Now that I'm thinking back, it's like my whole body just grounded in this. And it was just like there was a new truth that was like being awakened in me that I hadn't thought about yet.
This new truth brought with it a fear of reality.
How do I do this right now? Like it was a completely different shift. And, you know, the fear came in after. I feel like that's how our minds work, right? It's like we get this download, this inspiration, and it feels good and it feels safe for a minute or a week. But then suddenly we start lacing fear into all of it because that's just what we do, and that's okay. That's just natural human beings. But I was so afraid because I was like, I don't know how now. And I've just spent all my money and all my time training in theater. So like, do I need to spend more money now and go actually train in film and TV? And like, you know, at 21, money is a thing, especially when you have a student debt, you have a big student loan. And so the hows was the biggest fear of just like making it actually happen.
The moment created a ripple that began to change Sarah's life.
I realized film and TV was where my heart was as well. And so I did begin to train in film and TV, and I did begin to save up to do that. And the first agent I got was a smaller agent. I couldn't get into the big agencies, but within a year of training, I was like, I'm going to go for the big one. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to go for the biggest one in Toronto. And after a very, very, very stressful audition process that lasted way too long, I got in. But she was like, I'll take you for theater and film. And so I was like, okay, let's keep theater because that feels safer, right? It feels safer than just going full out into film and TV. And it just, that moment propelled everything. All these, now that I look back, right, it's that thing of like all these tiny little steps that get you to that keep getting you to that next step, and the next step, and the next step. It's like all the little steps are the chapters of the book that finish a book, and then you start another book. So everything changed, and it just propelled me into it.
Looking back now, Sara has one piece of advice she wishes she could share with her younger self.
It's something that I actually still always come back to, and it's that regardless of who you are, where you're at, you're never gonna rid yourself of the fear. I think it's learning to accept the fear. The thing is, you can't let it take the wheel. It can't be the driver of the car, but it's allowed to be a passenger. The fear is allowed to be there, and you can coexist with it, you know, and have your passion ride alongside it.
Sara, I am so excited that you're here. What an amazing moment. Incredible. So much that you unpacked for us, and so much that I think our listeners can learn from your experience of pivoting, right? I mean, you had an incredible sort of life goal that all of a sudden everything changed for you, and you were sort of forced to pivot, and you did it in such a way that I think some of us panic in those moments, and we make decisions based on emotions, and that's where we get ourselves into some trouble. But you didn't. You handled it with grace, like the prima ballerina that you are, and I think that's amazing. But let's shift gears. What I would love to know now is there a moment in your life that you wish you could get back?
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely one that pops up for me.
Tell us the story. What was happening around your life during this moment?
Yeah, so this was shortly after Father's Day in June of that year. June 1st of that year, my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And, you know, he had been ill for a few months, but we never really thought anything of it. And so he finally got in for a colonoscopy, and they gave him a year initially. And so this was obviously hard on the family, obviously hard on a lot of us. Just who I was, I kind of became his primary caretaker at this point. So, I was taking him to all the appointments. I was trying to figure it out. I had quit all my jobs. I hadn't moved in with him fully, but like definitely there all the time, taking care of him, trying to figure out how to maneuver this. And I went into a little bit of panic mode, as I think most of us would in this situation. I mean, I did everything. I did some probably illegal things that I shouldn't mention, but like, put it this way, I literally tried to use every resource I could to cure this cancer. And I was operating at a place of go, 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 figure it out, figure it out, figure it out, um, panic. And for Father's Day that year, I got him an iPad because the days that I couldn't make it, I wanted to be able to FaceTime with him or just like even nights or something like that. And a couple days later, oof, yeah, we got into a really big argument. Because I remember the moment we were at the colonoscopy. So backtrack it a couple weeks. June 1st, I take him to the colonoscopy. He goes in, he's sedated. I go to Subway. It's the little things you remember. I go to Subway with like my Nora Roberts novel, and I'm like sitting there reading, you know what I mean? Just like taking it in. I'm 23 at this point. And I remember going back and they call me in. And I was like, okay. And I sit down with him and there's like this curtain and the doctor closes it. And the doctor just gives me all these papers. And on these papers are all these pictures of the tumors in his colon. And my dad's like three-quarters sedated. You know what I mean? Anyway, and so the doctor's like telling me all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And they're like, we don't know that it's cancerous, but it probably is. We took a biopsy. It looks like stage 4. Goes through it all. And then he leaves. And then I look at my dad. And the first thing my dad says is, well, I guess it's my time. And why that's important is because for the next 3 weeks, that was a story that he kept communicating in different ways. And I didn't realize that it was building inside of me as bitterness and resentment and anger. And during this fight, he was like, why would you get me an iPad? I'm dying, essentially. He's like, why would you waste your money? And I remember like screaming at him out of like such rage. I don't get angry often in my life. I think the person or entity I've gotten the most angry at is God, probably.
Mhm.
Like we've had some good fighting matches, but I don't really fight with other people. And I remember screaming at him, being like, I can't save you if you won't save yourself. And I realized I was so angry at him because he had just given up. And I was still going. I was literally trying to do everything that my bank account and my physical body would allow me to do.
Yeah.
But I wish I could take it back in a way. I mean, I've learned so much from it, but it's a moment where I let like fear and bitterness and resentment and all those emotions that, are justified because we're human beings. But the look on his face when I said it, like, ooh, it still like brings such emotion to me because even though like, you can say like it wasn't a fair moment, I think he in a way also saw the truth of it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. Listen, I lost my oldest son in a similar sort of, everything was fine and then it wasn't. And, during those moments, we're so emotionally involved that reason, logic, all of the things that we know we should be sort of thinking through and using to our benefit, they go out the window. And I've said this a million times to people, is that our emotions are monsters. And sometimes they are good monsters and they help us in the direction that we want to go. But sometimes there's nothing good about them. And we get so wrapped up in the emotion that we lose the ability to see the truth. And we don't think of it from an outsider looking at it. We think of it from the inside where all the pain is, and that we're just functioning from that pain, and we're functioning from the what ifs and the we're already forecasting out what our life is going to look like if things don't go the way that we want them to. And we're sort of making decisions and having conversations, fighting that at a level that we're the only ones that are there. Everybody else is trying to, we hope, be in the present moment where we can make decisions and affect, what's going on, and make decisions that can be had in the now. But I think that our monsters want to pull us to the future so much that we're not able to be rational. And I feel like, listen, I've been there. I can
Yeah.
remember those conversations. It's overwhelming on every level. And the idea of it's the people in that time that will just say, God's got this or whatever. And I just wanted to punch them in the friggin' face every single time they said something like that, because my emotions didn't want to hear it. I wanted solutions. I wanted ideas that would change the fate of what I was told was going to happen. And those type of things, those types of answers and suggestions, I know they're well-meaning, and I know that people they're not trying to upset you. But gosh, man, sometimes the best thing to do is to just shut up and be there and just allow you to be in the hurt.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think for me too, I mean, just to riff on that for a sec, it's like your emotions become this monster, I think, especially in these kinds of circumstances, because it's such a demonstration of lack of control. And I think we all, you know what I mean? It's like we all think we can control our lives, and suddenly we're thrown with something. We're thrown something at us that's like, you can't control your life nor somebody else that you love so much.
Yeah.
And when the stakes are that high, and it's like, it's like your emotions, in this entire experience taught me so much about emotions, and I wouldn't really learn it for like another 9 years, because that's how usually these things work. But it's like when they take you over, it's almost like an outer body experience in moments like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I almost saw myself and my dad from like an outsider's view at the same time being in my own body. And I think it's these moments too that like you express your own truth, no matter how ugly it is, even if it's not purely your truth. But I think those emotions are a truth in you of some sort that are being repressed or whatnot. But also it's like in moments like that, it allows you to actually, I think, like see the ugly truth of the situation as well.
Yeah.
That it's like, they're so powerful and they're all encompassing. And I don't wish, because it taught me so much, but it's like, it would be so interesting to be dealt a card of such high stakes now.
Yeah.
With the work that I've done on presence.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. My next question is how would you approach that situation now with everything you've learned?
Yeah. Yeah. So I would approach it with, the word that comes to mind first is patience for myself, of like allowing myself to feel all these things and to scream and to punch and to rage on my own. Not towards other people, and just like process it how I need to. I think a lot of it for me was I was repressing it. I kept putting that Band-Aid on of I'm fine. It's fine. We'll figure it out. I'll fix it. And that mentality of I'll save him became my story for so many years. That got me into like relationships. I mean, relationships that taught me things, but I suddenly had the mentality for the next 9 years of I'll save everybody in my life because I couldn't save my dad. And that's very toxic. And that, puts you operating actually from a place of depletion and duty instead of actual love and compassion to the people around you. But in that moment, I think how I would approach it is just accept that the fear and the pain is going to be there. Don't deny it. Don't try to label it as something else. Be angry. You know what I mean? Be furious.
Yes.
Be sad and scream and sob, but do it in a way that's emotionally responsible to the other people involved as well, because they're all going through something as well.
So I'm looking this up because it's like as you're saying this, what hits me is I think about grace in these moments. And it's something that I wish I would have given myself. And part of the challenge, I think, is when we hear the word grace, we think that that only comes from God. You know what I mean? And at least for me, it's like when I hear that word grace, it's attached to God, and God is the only person who can give us that grace. But the truth is that we can give ourselves grace. And as I'm looking at sort of the definition of grace, it's just about approval or kindness and being kind to yourself in these moments. And I think that, at least for myself, going back to those super high emotional moments, the idea of giving yourself grace and treating yourself with kindness is the least offensive thing that you can do in those moments, right? It's
Yeah.
that ability to say, it's sort of acknowledge what's going on. This is happening out of our control. Let's try to stay here and now of the things we can control. But give us that kindness to ourselves to say, this is a tough spot to be in for anybody, period. And so no matter what decisions are about to be made or are going to be made, we have to approach it by giving ourselves and treating ourselves with kindness, and know that the stakes are really high. And when the stakes are high, so are our emotions.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to make bad decisions is astronomical. And the chance of you getting out of this without making a few bad decisions is virtually impossible. So let's not make that the standard. Let's think about giving ourselves grace, treating ourselves with kindness, and knowing that this is a horrible scenario for anybody to deal with. And all we can ask for is that we do the best we can in the moment and give ourselves that grace and kindness, knowing that we're going to make mistakes, because it's just a tough thing to deal with. Right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. And I feel like when you give yourself that grace and that kindness, it also, I think it would help you communicate better. Do you know what I mean? To be like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm just going through it right now. So
Yeah.
like today I'm going to be a monster, or today this sucks. And I just need to say that this sucks.
Yeah.
And it also, I'm a big believer in what you give is also what you get, in multiple ways of like, if you give yourself grace, it also allows you to give others grace as well, because you're not denying anything, right? It's like when you're putting the Band-Aid on, you don't actually allow yourself to see other people in their own suffering and whatever that is for them. So when you give yourself grace, you also give it to them, so that if they lash out at you, you're also like, cool, I know that this is like the emotion monster talking in this moment, and it's not you.
Isn't it? I go to, if you're not in the moment, let's say you're the best friend of the person going through the moment and you're watching it happen. What's funny to me is, at least for me, the first instinct is to just act with kindness. Kid gloves, everything is kid gloves, right? We're really careful with our words, right? In those moments. There's no pointing a finger. There's no you this, you that. It's always a more generalized approach and a more really careful with what we say, because we don't want this to get worse. We don't want to hurt the person's feelings. We don't want to put ourselves in a predicament. But when it comes to ourselves, all of that stuff just goes out the window. We don't think of any of that, right? Was that how it was for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I think we set these expectations of ourselves. Like, I know, and whether it's my mental discipline or growing up how I did, but like, it's the one thing even today that I work on so much is like giving myself grace to be like, hey, you're working hard enough. You know what I mean? Like for me, I'm always like, there's more to do, be better, all of this. And it's like, okay, cool. That's great. That drives you. That's ambition. That's wonderful. But there's a difference between mental discipline and self-punishment, mental discipline and non-acceptance, and like mental discipline and giving yourself that grace.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, we set these unrealistic expectations that it's like, hey, they just told me my dad's going to die in less than a year. And suddenly like some kind of link of mental discipline and perfectionism goes in to be like, you got this. You're fine. You'll save him because you can do anything.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, it's definitely that. It's like we always give other people so much more grace, I think, and kindness, exactly that, than we do ourselves.
Well, listen, you are the definition of grace for me for many things, I will tell you. And I just can't thank you enough for being on the podcast and sharing some incredible moments, right? It's such a personal thing, but I feel like this is how we truly help each other, is to express what has catapulted us forward and what do we want to fix? Because I've got a laundry list of those things in my life that I long to share with people to try to help them get to where they want to be. So thank you so much. If people want to continue to be in your world, what's the best thing for them to do?
Yeah, of course. So you can follow me on the socials at Sara Mitich is my personal account, but also I have a website up called gratitudegrowth.com. So I too have a podcast, and gratitude through everything has really become my way of life. And I've had this beautiful understanding that life is a never-ending journey of growth. What we were just talking about, you're always going to get thrown things. So it's a place, and actually it's becoming this beautiful community, just dedicated to infusing people's lives with grace and positivity and awareness. So gratitudegrowth.com is somewhere. You can join the email list, stay in contact with me there as well, and at Sara Mitich. And I just wanted to say too, thank you so much, Brant, for having me. I think what you're doing is really important. And I think it's really beautiful. And I think, if we can bring this awareness to people, I think that is the ripple effect of change. And I'm so honored to be a part of it. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this for the collective. I think that means a lot.
Well, thank you for joining this movement of momentum where we can help people achieve those things that maybe they're questioning if it's possible. You've proven they're possible. You continue to do it. And thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Brant.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Just a Moment. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast and tell a friend or two about it to help spread the word so everyone can find a moment that inspires them. Don't forget to leave us a review and check us out on the web at justamomentpodcast.com. Just a Moment is produced by Natalie Von Rose and Brant Menswar. For more inspiring shows like this, visit surroundpodcasts.com.